Now that we have the front side of the bear put together and the back side of the bear put together, we're going to put both sides together and line them up so that your notches on the front and the back line up. Pin that in place. I have not forgotten about the ears and the legs. By pinning this together right now, we're going to find the best place for those pieces. You want to find the center of the forehead piece. So to do that, fold over your forehead piece and put a little crease in there or a pin, and then line up that seam to that little crease. Flatten out your seam and put a pin in place. When I make a bear, I like to put the ears on the outside of these two forehead seams. So the ear would technically go between the seam and the little notches. Now we're going to line up our seams around the neck. So here on one side, flatten those seams out and put a pin in place. Do that on the other side. Once you have the head pinned, now we're going to start pinning the rest of the body, and then we're going to place the legs. So line up your arms, make sure the curves are lined up together, and pin that in place. Now you need to find your center seam on the bottom of the bear. Line up your two center seams from the front to the back, and again, press your seams open to reduce the bulk. Pin that center seam. Once you have your bear pretty much pinned all the way around, you'll notice that there's a little extra room on the front side of the bear versus the back side. But that's because we're going to put a little dart on the front side of the bear around the belly. This will make the belly a little bit fuller, but we need to put our legs in place. So this little opening is where the legs are going to go. The legs want to be sitting with the curve and pointed side upward, not downward. So when you're placing them in the bear, you want to place it so the point is upward. You're just going to stick it right in there, and you're going to pin that in place. You want the edge of the leg to be about 1 inch away from this center seam. So that's about right. And you want to make sure you do it the same on both sides. Line up all your fabric pieces. Again, you'll have a little extra bit right underneath the armpit, only on the front side of the body. And pin the leg in place. Repeat on the other side. Now that our bear is completely pinned and the legs are inside, we're going to stitch all the way around our bear, except for a couple of spots. You're going to start by stitching from underneath the armpit on one side, all the way around the arm, all the way around the head, down to the neck and around this other arm on the other side, and stop right underneath the armpit. Then you're going to stitch all the way around the bottom of the bear, but you're going to leave this opening. So you'll start right where the leg starts, all the way to where the leg starts again on the other side. So let's start sewing those. The armpits are a little bit tricky. You want to make sure that your seam allowance is big enough that it covers the stitching within that 1/4 inch that you've done on the front seam of the arm to the body. If you don't get it in there enough, you'll see that later, but you can adjust it before you turn it and stuff it. So I've sewn the bear all the way around, and I've even clipped and notched it. You can do that at the very, very end before you turn it and stuff it, or you can do it now just like I did. The last part that we need to do before we turn it right side out is to sew these little darts on the underside of each armpit. To do that, you want to look to see where you have excess fabric or how much excess fabric you have. You want to pinch that little bit of excess fabric where we're going to sew the darts, pull away the back side, and stitch from that point down to a little point on the front of the belly. You're just going to taper off that seam or that dart. This could be really difficult in your sewing machine, so if you need to stitch it by hand, that's okay. Once you've sewn your dart, you want to clip your dart just a little bit so that you can flatten out the seam. Once you flatten out the seam, line up your edge again, and now you can stitch this last little piece on this side. Then you can repeat that dart on the other side as well. Now that we've finished sewing the bear under these little armpits with the darts, we're going to turn the bear right side out. Gently pull the legs out, especially if you're using wool felt, it can rip. So be really gentle about it. And now before you turn out the arms, you want to make sure that your seam allowance covers up the seam allowance from the arms. And this one looks correct. So use your turning tubes to turn the arms right side out. Again, sometimes you don't want to push too hard with it being the wool felt. So once you get it out just a little bit, keep pulling it the rest of the way. Now you want to turn the face. Put your turning tube in and just go right up to the top and push it down just enough so that you can find that little piece and grab it. Now gently pull back and find your bear. Here's his little ears. And we're going to push out the front of his face, push out the back of the head, rub the stick right along the seam allowance, and now push out his arms. Once you finish turning the bear right side out, you need to decide what kind of eyes you want to put on your bear. If you want to do embroidery eyes, you can do that after you stuff the bear. If you want to use safety eyes, like some of these, you'll want to do that before you stuff your bear. That's because once the stuffing is in there, you won't be able to get the little safety clip on the inside. Once you've decided on your eyes, go ahead and stuff your bear and then close up the back side with a ladder stitch. I'm going to show you a couple of ways that you can personalize your bear. First, we have all the extra pieces that you can cut from the die, the star, the bow tie, and even the baby rattle. You can use all these different pieces by putting two pieces together and stitching all the way around it. It's helpful to use a little bit of glue, either a glue stick or a washable glue with a fine tip. Press them together and then stitch them so that they're not shifting as you're sewing the little pieces. For the bow tie, I actually attached it using a clear elastic. You can use any color elastic you want. If you have a black bear, you can use black elastic. If you have a white bear, you can use white. But usually clear works really great for just about anything. This way you can switch the bow ties, or you can attach some elastic to the rattle and put it on the bear's hand. So that could look really cute too. Some other things that you can do with your bear is to use really furry fabric. This one is actually really soft and it can be difficult to work with unless you serge all the edges of your seams first. So before you do anything putting it together, you want to serge all the edges so that they're a lot stronger and they don't stretch as much. You can also use a plain simple cuddle fabric, which is really great and soft, and do what Kathy from here at Sizzix did. She attached a little bear head to a little double gauze blanket. I think that's really cute, and it makes a really great gift. So a little trick I wanted to share with you: when you're cutting out really furry fabrics or cuddle fabric, if you use a piece of muslin and cover up your die, it will protect the fabric, but it will also protect your die from getting all the fabric pushed down inside there. So lay a piece of your fabric, your muslin fabric, down on the die first, and then place your furry fabric on top. Only do one layer at a time to prevent those two layers from sliding around on each other. Make sure the first pass you do, the furry side is up, and the second pass, the furry side is down. By doing that, you'll be sure to have the mirror images of each piece that you need. So when you're all done cutting out your pieces, you'll have a little bit of a mess here. You'll have extra pieces of the muslin. You can make a bear with that muslin fabric, or you can discard it. That's totally up to you. I hope you enjoy making all these different types of bears, and I can't wait to see what you make. Have fun!